आयो बात हाँ आयो આવશે
બધા યાદ થાય તે કર્યું એ નવું
અવાજ બંધ થઈ ગયો શું છે તો already inviting your schedule to me આયો વાત
રાખજે
क्या आया
મ્યુટ રાખ માઈક મ્યુટ છે
21 10 to 21 दीदी
This is passcode, no? This is the thing.
No, now I send you the new ID because there are 100 participants, they were not taking in. Now they have changed the ID and they have given us new ID because they want to include more participants. Yeah, just sign in just now. I'll send you the ID. I tried calling Jovita, she's not picking up. Just
Okay.
I've sent it to her also. Okay.
हाँ
I'm getting already.
Where the meeting over?
Here I already go here only.
Your sound is coming. Hey, what's up? Put up there. What's that? किसको सुन रहा है?
That one good time.
Lights are open.
From where we can see the people?
Yeah. Please mute your microphones.
कहाँ डाले करके माइक ऑफ डांस से कोई वीडियोस ही नहीं
Lionel, it's done. Lionel, it's done.
Yes, Shrikant, very seamless, very effective. That's the beauty of having people
Online.
from Manipal
Online.
Institute of Technology.
Yeah.
So continue.
I'm sorry, but I'm very sorry that this mistake has happened. I should have taken. This is the old ID what we used yesterday. So there was some communication gap. So apologies from me to all of you. My sincere apologies to all of you. Right. The YouTube link has been put. If anybody wants to see it through YouTube, also the link has been put. Lionel, you can tell to everybody.
Okay, so I will forward Father Tellus's information to you. He would be in a position. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, Father Tellus would be in a position to send out to Western region. Okay, so meanwhile, why don't you continue with your talk?
No, let everybody join. Doesn't matter. Let everybody join.
Okay.
You can speak something in general.
Yeah. It's my pleasure.
You can speak something in general.
Yeah, I will speak now. I thank Archbishop Elias for the introductory speech, and I thank Father Tellus who spoke on the role of WRCFE, the aims of education in India, Gujarat, etc. If anybody is new, because I am new to it, so I just wanted to put the abbreviation straight, and I'm taking time. I'm going to Google. I did that. Right. So, yeah, it is Western Region Catholic Foundation for Education. Right. I forgot that abbreviation there. Now, with this, it's time for me to speak on the progress and evolution of education in India and teachers in inspiration. Right. So education in India in the ancient ages has been through Vedas, Yoga, Ayurveda. As ages evolved, mathematics, physics, chemistry came into being. And these are the days when students learn mathematics from their teachers in terms of number theory, coordinate geometry, trigonometry, probability, permutation combinations, etc. All the teachers are well versed in schools, specifically from the teachers who teach from class 1 to class 5, class 5 to class 10, and class 10 to class 12, basics of mathematics. But one thing what we all need to understand is we need to teach the students more applications. Like, how can you make a chess game? How can you make a Ludo game? How can you simulate? Yeah. How can you simulate other games? Yeah, just pardon me 1 minute. Yeah, right. All right. Okay. Sheila Parmar, somebody has put on the screen more. Sheila Parmar, can you just, Sheila Parmar. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, right. So I was talking about education to be provided by the teachers, and they have to be more well versed in telling applications like game playing or design of cockpits in aeroplanes, design of bullet trains, the automations, etc. Or working in agriculture, making drones, right, to find some debris, some material which has come from some crashes, right. Okay, right. So this takes us back to the age of the Second World War, when Industrial Revolution took place. And after the Industrial Revolution took place in India, we got the concept of IITs, steel plants, dams, and many of the engineers were sent to United States of America and the Soviet Union for getting trained for our public sector, specifically the steel plants, Bhilai, Bokaro, Rourkela, Durgapur. And IITs like IIT Bombay, IIT Kanpur, IIT Kharagpur, IIT Madras, um, these basic IITs. So after these engineers were trained and they came back, some of the engineers, they were teaching technical subjects in the IITs. Their spouses were teaching in the schools. So here, this conference is all about school education. So school education should impart these days children not only technical knowledge or clinical knowledge, but also managerial knowledge, historical knowledge, yogic knowledge, Vedic knowledge. That the student should be made more interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary. And that is what is our national education policy all about, which has been brought by the government of India recently. So according to that policy, students should be made more self-versatile. So once they reach class 5, can they take certain vocational subjects? When they reach class 8, can they take certain vocational subjects like yoga or education on moral values or meditation or sports or games? So can the students be given extra knowledge by grading, so that if at all the student cannot get a job through his basic degree, he can get a job through the vocational courses. So this is what we need to inspire the students. So if one door closes, the other door opens. This is one way of looking at holistic education. The other way of looking at holistic education is um, teachers getting higher qualifications. So if a teacher is Master of Science in mathematics, can a teacher try to get a Master of Technology in computer science, so that the teacher can teach along with mathematics, computer science? Or can a teacher with, say, Master of Arts in history, can a teacher go into Master of Technology in education technology? So education technology is all about online learning, what we are seeing now, like Coursera, NPTEL, right? And when you see the education technology courses also, what is existing, it is all about technical courses, clinical means health sciences, managerial, commerce, then we have got law, then we have got chartered accountancy. So this means the one point is very clear: the basis of all the courses, all the degrees, is mathematics. So please tell your students to become strong in mathematics. The meaning of being strong in mathematics is not to get high marks alone, but to apply the knowledge what they study in the schools into applications, right? And these applications should not be only in the schools, but it should be in the house. So the teacher should be teaching to the students in school, that when they go back to the house, they have to tell their parents what they learned, so that parents also get educated. If parents have certain qualifications, they get more knowledge by listening to the students when they come back to their homes. So one point is very clear: through mathematics, physics, chemistry, geography, history, economics, Sanskrit, physical education. So these are the basic subjects what we teach in schools, specifically after class 5. I repeat once again: mathematics, physics, chemistry, history, geography, economics, physical education, biology. So when you are teaching these subjects, you should tell your students that they should have a broader perspective of all these subjects, so that when they grow up, when they are going to take any one particular subject, they can have a holistic preview or knowledge about all the entities. So with these words, I wish you all the best, teachers and all the students. Now it's over to Dr. Lionel D'Souza, who will be talking on education on a global scale and the engagement of scholarship. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Srikanth. Well, I would like to first express my sincere thanks to His Grace Archbishop Elias Gonsalves for the excellent presentation, the talk, and the discussion, and how our teachers are really progressing, have managed to imbibe all the latest in digital technology, and without missing a beat, have done so wonderfully in all our school districts. Now, I would also like to compliment Dr. Srikanth for so seamlessly transitioning from one platform to another. That's the beauty of having gurus in information technology working with us. Now, coming back to my topic of speaking about global education, and the purpose of this exchange is to really, first of all, learn from everybody in India, but also to bring forward speakers from the United States and other locations around the world and share those best practices and the good things that they've managed to achieve during this period. It is very significant that the world is just one big village right now with the powers of information technology. And we are indeed fortunate to live in such a world. Despite the negatives of the pandemic, I think the positives by far outweigh the negatives. And from a global perspective, there is so much to learn in the engagement of scholarship. We learn a lot from just engaging in sharing best practices, ideas that work, in your classrooms, ideas that work in our classrooms. And ultimately, our knowledge is put to advancing students' abilities. That's our real focus as educators, to really deliver superb value to our students, to make them an asset to society, to the communities, and of course to advance their own abilities first in schools, and then as they grow and go out into the real world and be professionals in different fields of endeavor, whether it is academia or whether it is in some job, whether it's in the bank or any profession that is their calling. We have to really lay the foundation in our schools, where we give the best possible education to our schools, and teachers are really sources of inspiration all across the world. And in India, that's no exception. All our teachers are role models, as Archbishop said, and our teachers truly inspire. So on that note, the purpose of this exchange is to really impart as well as imbibe. We want to share our experiences from the United States. We have speakers from Turkey, the Middle East, and so on. So we really want to exchange ideas, but we also want to learn, because there's something that we as teachers and educators are. We are the finest of students ourselves. We constantly learn. So in order to learn, we do all that is needed: reading, research, and we are the best students as well. And what we acquire in knowledge, we impart and we share it with our students to develop them, inspire students, and each one of us has a very valued role. So on that note, it's all about inspiring our students. I would hand it over back to Dr. Shrikant to transition to the next session, which will be our speakers, actually. And so, Dr. Shrikant, that is the last from me, and let us transition to speakers.
Thank you, Dr. Lionel. Now it's time over to Dasantila Sharifi, Dr. Dasantila Sharifi, who will be speaking on online instructional class strategies to enhance teaching and learning. Online instructional class strategies to enhance teaching and learning. हिंदी में इसको बोलते हैं, अगर क्लास को ऑनलाइन कंप्यूटर में लिया जाए तो उसको कैसे करना है और उसको कैसे अच्छा करना है। अभी क्योंकि कोरोना और कोविड-19 भारत में और पूरे दुनिया में है, तो कंप्यूटर के जरिए आप अपने क्लास को कैसे अच्छा कर सकते हो, अपने टीचिंग को और स्टूडेंट्स को पढ़ाने में। So once again, I reiterate and hand over the session to Dr. Dasantila Sharifi.
Yes, so let me provide a little bio on Dr. Sharifi. Dr. Sharifi will be presenting online instructional class strategies to enhance teaching and learning. And I will be presenting, co-presenting with her. But Dr. Sharifi, some background, is an assistant professor and HIM program director at a famous university in New Jersey, United States, which is Rutgers University. Prior to joining Rutgers, she was a professor in the College of Health Science at DeVry University. Dr. Sharifi earned a PhD in health sciences from Walden University, a master's in business administration from Southern Illinois University Carbondale, a bachelor of health science in health information administration from Gwynedd Mercy University in Pennsylvania, and a bachelor's degree in marketing from the University of Tirana in Albania. So a very learned person, and it tells me that learning has to be ongoing and continuous, and we can never rest on our laurels. So over to Dr. Tila, as we fondly call her, her abbreviated name. Okay, Tila, Dr. Tila.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Yes.
I'll do that. One second. Right, start, ma'am.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Excellent. Can you please also allow me to share my screen, or will you be doing that?
You can do, ma'am. I have set this one.
Okay.
That's just a second.
Right. Not yet.
Please do that. Please do that. Now go ahead.
Okay, I am good now. Thank you. Can you all see my screen?
Yeah.
Well, thank you everybody for having me today. Thank you, Dr. D'Souza, for inviting me to this meeting. It's been very informative, actually. The first hour, it was motivating to hear Archbishop Elias Gonzalez and the experience that the schools are going through across the world and especially in your country. So I have been teaching in the online environment for 6 years in the United States. So throughout these years, I've had the opportunity to learn a little bit more about the preferences from the students, the challenges, and the opportunities that arise. And from that perspective, Dr. Lionel and I brought together this presentation with some strategies that perhaps you could use in your daily teaching. So to start, I would like to basically present you a bit of an overview in terms of the challenges that we face in the online environment. In the face-to-face environment, we have that opportunity to see the students. We can look at their eyes and see whether they're understanding it or not, whether that light is turning on in their brain. But we cannot do that in the online environment, just like now. So we can try, but there are limitations. There's also limited opportunities to show them something. Let's say you do an experiment in chemistry or physics. So yes, you can use the cameras, but perhaps some elements are missing. Also, there's issues of accessibility. So just now we experienced the limit in the Zoom meeting because of the way it was set up, and then we addressed that issue quickly. Well, we face the same issues as we are teaching in the online environment, whether it is perhaps difficulties in accessing the meeting or accessing the assignment, all of those issues. On the other side, I have found that we can be more creative, and I think that was a theme that was mentioned already today. We can also provide the content that can be reviewed later. Right now, this meeting is being recorded, and those that cannot attend because they have other obligations can actually go back and view it later. We can increase independent learning and critical thinking that allows the students to not always, for let's say 6 hours, be in the presence of a teacher, but they can take that break, they can think for themselves, reflect, and learn. And we can also increase accessibility to learning resources. So I just mentioned limited accessibility. How come we can increase accessibility? Well, there are students, there are parents that perhaps cannot participate in the lesson for that specific time. By making this available through a recording later, they can actually view it later. They will not miss it. So that is an example of accessibility. We can write the information and post it, let's say through the G Suite from Google or other tools that we have available. So that's what we mean by looking at the online education, yes, as a challenge, but also as an opportunity. So today's objectives are pretty simple. Basically, we just want to discuss some best practices that are related to online and social distance instruction and learning, and to increase awareness about some of the aspects of how you set up the course, the class, and how important that is. There are various aspects of online instruction. So I put these in a circle, and we will not go through all of these in details, but let me just go through them briefly. So, of course, the teacher's knowledge, the teacher's expertise matters. So if a teacher has the expertise in math, they can teach math and impart that knowledge on the children, on the students. And then, of course, if they also, as it was just mentioned, can be proficient in technology, they could help with that as well. Moving clockwise, if we look at the teaching mode, so mode by mode, I mean whether you do it live, right, like now, whether you do it in person, which we cannot do now, whether you do it through exchanging messages and information in writing, and so on. So that also matters. We can impart knowledge when we grade students. When we grade the students' work, whether it is homework or an exam, if we provide some constructive feedback, they can learn from that feedback, and next time they will do a better job. The time span, what do I mean by that? The time that is spent on a specific topic or the whole class. So whether you spent, let's say, 4 weeks or 2 weeks or 12 weeks, that matters, because depending on how much content you have to discuss and have the students master, then that will affect how quickly they can absorb it, whether they have enough time to learn it. So that will impact their learning. The teaching platform. The teaching platform is, let's say, Google G Suite, the Google Teach. So that could be an example. And there could be other, this one right now, the Zoom meeting, that could be a teaching platform as well. Course tools. So what tools are you using in your toolbox to teach? Is it only an exam? If you are doing an exam, is it multiple choice or is it with essay questions? Are you giving students assignments or homework? Are they doing experiments at home? So that's what we call tools. Do they have the ability to discuss with each other? Do they have the ability to discuss with the teacher? So all of these affect the process of learning. And of course, there's other components as well. So from that perspective, we brought together here just a few considerations, theories, and practices. And we'll start with designing with the end in mind. Dr. Lionel, I'll pass this on to you. And then I'll come back again with some more.
Yeah, sorry, I'm here. So when we say designing with end in mind, it sort of brings to mind reverse engineering. In other words, we try and see what will serve the student best, and then present our course or our learning or our chapter in that way, saying that this is what outcome we want to achieve and how do we go about that. So that is basically the purpose. What are the desired outcomes or the goals of the course? What do you want to impart? What do you want your students to imbibe? And how would you go about it? it should not be that students just remember something for the moment or while they are in class, because ultimately in India, the exams come at the end of the year, and students have to have that in permanent memory so that when the time of the examinations, they are able to recall that. And I think that is the role of the teacher, where we use good strategies, good vision to help embed this knowledge, and that they can quickly remember it. It still remains in memory, and at the time of the examinations, it is effortless to recall and prepare. Next slide, please. So how do we make our students think critically and be self-directed? I know that is difficult. We say that they are children, but those seeds of sowing the critical thought process begins at this stage, no matter what the grade level is, right from the lower grades to the higher classes. If we can help students to think critically, maybe help them for an assignment, give them some tasks where they can research and see how that concept that is being taught relates in the real world. For example, if you're teaching computer science, then and the subject is on some application, then they should be able to relate to the example that is seen in the world around them. The idea is to, again, as I mentioned previously, is to embed learning, is to make learning, whatever knowledge they acquire, be in the vaults of their memories, be in permanent memory. And if something is embedded, then it is very easy to recall, and they go out stronger for that. So the teaching approach should be to develop that critical thinking, even in a smaller or younger child. So what are the ways to do that? First of all, if we break the material into smaller topics, bits, we use the word in the United States, chunks. So chunks mean smaller pieces, so that the student is able to assimilate, is able to grasp it, and grasp it to the level that they can relate it to the world around them. Provide sequential activities with progressive complexity. So you start simple, lay the foundation, the building blocks, so little minds don't have to be taxed. They can gradually develop that knowledge and skills. And I think that as teachers, we have that role in building that knowledge in a phased, gradual manner, which does not cause what we would term here as information overload. It has to be very gradual and sequential. And that will help the students develop those kind of critical thinkings and relate to the real world. And that situation of developing their ability to relate to the real world is what's very important, because the knowledge should not be just for the day, for the moment, but for the examinations and for later life. Next, please. Okay. So there are different strategies, different techniques in achieving critical thinking. One way is interactive storytelling. Anything that students can relate to, can recall, helps for knowledge to reside in permanent memory. So if you can teach, and relate to a story connected to real world applications, it will really help to embed that knowledge. Now, there may be different ways to do that. One is called,
bit delayed 15-20 minutes, sir. So I'll come there by 7:45, 7:50 or 8. It's okay, no?
Yes. Hello.
Come early, I'll
Can
come.
the mute?
This, the glitches,
Can you mute your microphone, please? Okay. Thank you. So one way to embed this knowledge would be to use mnemonics. Now, what are mnemonics? The spelling of mnemonics: MNEMONICS. It means using memory tricks for the student to absorb and retain that knowledge for a long time. Let me give you a simple example. In North America, we have 5 Great Lakes. Now, it's difficult to remember all those names, but if you say HOMES, HOMES, the acronym HOMES, then it's easy for me to recall what those lakes are. So H is Lake Huron, O is Lake Ontario, M is Lake Michigan, E is Lake Erie, and S is Lake Superior. So with one word, I can remember all 5 Great Lakes. So any such technique and trick in music, you have the treble clef, E, G, B, D, F, eat good bread, dear father. So complex things can be learned through mnemonics. And whatever you do, if you use those kind of stories, it helps better for the student to reflect, to analyze, to synthesize, for the student to break up that complex information and synthesize it. That knowledge has to become their own. They must own that knowledge forever. And overall, when you do all these things, you will find you're increasing critical thinking exponentially in your students, and you are embedding knowledge. Knowledge will be in their bank account, in their personal account forever. So that's the beauty of some of these techniques. Next slide, Dr. Tila, and I think you take over.
Absolutely, thank you. Yes, so there are some courses that sometimes bring together multiple disciplines. So think about physics. It brings math, right? So is chemistry. Chemistry brings some math with it. But there are some others that sometimes we don't think about, especially in the social sciences. So you have to think of whatever you are teaching, whether it is an art class or an economics, maybe. Economics is a pretty multi-dimensional course, or history. So if there are topics that perhaps could benefit from an expert in that specific topic, even though this is a history course or an economics course, then try to make a connection, bring in a peer, a coworker, so that interdisciplinary collaboration will make that experience for that topic more memorable, more meaningful. And the students actually might look at that topic a little bit different now, because they understand that, oh, so I'm not learning this other course, this other class for nothing. They actually blend together. And in real life, when we are out there working, we always have to collaborate and work together and bring that knowledge from the different areas, whether it is ethics or economics or history or mathematics. So by introducing the students to this concept early on, it makes them more prone to adopting to that model when they grow up and when they are in the workplace, so that they are actually looking for possible collaborations as they get in the real life. So I encourage you in your courses to find those commonalities, those areas that perhaps could benefit by another colleague of yours. And even if that means for that individual to join your class for 15 minutes or 20 minutes, that is all that you may need. So consider interdisciplinary collaboration. often in my classes, I will bring in a guest speaker. I teach health information management and healthcare services, but there are specific topics that I know I have an expert out there, a colleague of mine, and I'll bring them along to do a quick video or a quick guest speaking opportunity like this. So I also wanted to share some of the more popular theories in teaching, and I understand the terms may be a little bit complicated, but I'll try to clarify them. So what are these models? Behaviorism basically relates to how we condition the brain, the mind, by asking students certain things, certain questions, and asking them to react. So basically, it's a reaction to the stimulus. And you might say, what courses could this be used? Think of literature, think of arts, think of even physical education, because they do lend themselves to this type of approach pretty nicely. So you are encouraging them to actually react in certain ways, and you're conditioning their mind. The second one is called cognitivism. Cognitivism has to do with the process of teaching the students certain concepts, but then asking them to connect those concepts with each other. And in that process, they're engaged in active learning and in the process of critical thinking, what was just mentioned earlier by Dr. Lionel. So I'll tell you an example of mine. Years ago, I was writing a paper on healthcare costs in the United States. And as you may have heard, they are pretty high here. And I was thinking, and I must have had some sort of expression in my mind that my son, the younger son, says, "Mom, what are you thinking about?" Perhaps I was deeply embedded in those thoughts. And I said, Sure. I'm thinking about how we can lower costs in healthcare." And he says, somehow he engaged with that. And he says, my teacher, he was in elementary school and he had taken the economics course. And he says, my teacher has told me that when you have more of something, the price goes down. So I say, oh, good idea, Kevin. Now, of course, in healthcare, it's not exactly like that, but just the process of that type of engagement where the student is thinking beyond the box and is trying to make those connections. I was talking about healthcare, but I mentioned price. I mentioned the increase in price. Then he was able to make that connection back to another concept he had learned in economics. So think along those lines and see how you can pose questions that make students actually think deeper and bring back the knowledge from other areas, either from the prior coursework, the same course, concepts that were discussed before, or other courses that your students are taking at the same time. The third one has become pretty popular nowadays. It's called Constructivism. So Constructivism has to do with the concept of engaging students in more exploration and more experimentation. So in that process, then they are learning themselves. So if they're doing an experiment in chemistry, for example, or in physics, or they are making notes about something in nature, in biology. So that's what constructivism is. So with this method, with this approach, you are encouraging the students to learn based on their experience. So if let's say that they're pushing a small car and they're trying to figure out the speed or velocity and the distance and the time. So, or maybe the force, how much they're pushing that car and how fast it is going. So then they can take those notes. And they can remember it better when they connect it to their own experiences. Just like when you send the children to the store, you teach them math and you give them the money, and then you say, make sure you get, you pay what you're supposed to and make sure that you get the rest of it back. So they learn math better when they connect it with money. Well, the same thing or similar here, try to connect it to things that are tangible, that they can experiment with, so that they can retain that knowledge, and they feel more convinced and more powerful when they gain that knowledge on their own. Now, in all these processes, you want to make sure that you keep them focused, because sometimes it is easy for them to get, depending on the attention span, it is easy for them to get a little bit of a detour. So just make sure that you bring them back always after whatever experimentation they're doing. It doesn't end up in another play, but you come back with some conclusions and some responses to questions. So I'm sure that most of you now are using multimedia. But I still thought it would be worth putting it here, because it is important to have various ways of communication. Okay, so it comes down to not just having something in writing. In my past, when I was a child, I did not have multimedia. I only had the books and the teacher explaining, in front of the class. Now there is YouTube and there's all other kinds of videos out there. So how can we channel some of those that are actually properly fitted to our content to help students be more engaged? How can we create our own videos and multimedia to help them be engaged? So we want to determine which multimedia tools are appropriate. Okay, so that means when you select a video that's already there, look at the content, look at it through the end, make sure that it fits what you intend to teach the students. If it doesn't fit, then don't use it, make your own. Try to keep them short and try to keep them interactive so that you can help students pay attention to it. Often people start watching a video for 3 minutes or so, 5 minutes maybe, and they lose interest and they stop. So you have to think of that. How do I still keep them engaged? Because at minute 5, I have something really important to tell them. Okay, so consider these types of points as you're creating them. You want to consider various types of media to appeal to different types of learners. So that's another reason. Some people learn better by reading and others learn better by hearing or seeing. So that's what that means. So you are basically trying to encourage all types of learners to benefit from that. And you might even use multimedia to see how engaged the students are. Now, depending on what tools you have, if you can ask a question in the video, for example, and allow the students to respond, if you can collect those responses, then you can grade and you can figure out whether the students actually paid attention to that content of the video or not. So this slide basically is addressed mostly to teachers in the effort of how much information to give students. If you give them too little, then they may get the perception that it may not be as important. Or perhaps they might think, well, there's no more details. That's it, it's just a little point. Now, your intention may have been, I want to give them just an overview, just a very brief, some brief instruction here, because I want them to think for themselves, but they may not think of it that way. So unless you want them to do something more, then you have to expand how much instruction you provide. On the other side, If you give them way too much, they may become bored. They also may lose interest and say, oh, I've done, he already or she already said this. Oh, I know this. Or, oh, now this is getting too long and I forgot what was said at the beginning. Or this is getting too long and I got confused. So as teachers, we have the responsibility to try to test the waters and see how much instruction is needed at different points in time, depending on the topic, depending on the level of engagement. This last slide actually talks about consistency versus variability. So in a consistent world, we have patterns, and education tends to be like that for the most part. So you have patterns, you have your lesson plans that have been prepared for a while. Maybe you have changed them a little bit now for the online environment, but for the most part, you have the same types of assignments. What I propose is to change it a little bit. Change can be a good thing. So what do I mean by change? Not just simply the fact that we are online now. I mean, change the assignment. Maybe make it different from any of the classes before. Maybe they have not had a graded discussion. Maybe all they had was just graded exams. Okay, how about now you encourage them with another element and say, okay, if you participate in this discussion, then you maybe can get a point or something like that. So changing the course content, changing the course requirements sometimes, and the way you deliver it. So going, let's say, from just writing instructions to maybe speaking them, to maybe having two-way communication with students, any change really will help break the monotony and make it more interesting and more creative. And it will encourage students to be different as well. So with those strategies now, I just want to bring it all together. So these different ways of sharing the information, the knowledge, the instructional approaches, they all matter. Okay, we want to make sure that we look at the course information and the materials that we are trying to share with the students. Are they accessible? Are they able to, let's say, use their not just their computers, but their phone or a tablet they might have? Now, when they use them, it's not enough for them just to see it, but can they actually complete their assignment? Can they complete their requirements on that phone or on that tablet? So you want them to be functional and you want them to be accessible, because only then you can serve the purpose of learning. You also want to try to make them easy to use, easy to find, so that the students are not spending half an hour just finding the information. So when they have that, when they do that quickly, then it provides potential to engage them. It provides potential for interaction, and you can also accommodate some multimedia. And continuing on here, if we set it up in a nice way so that all of those points are mentioned, that I mentioned are addressed, then we make that course area the main place for the students to go. They will not just go wander anywhere in the internet. They go right there into your course. And also, should your director or principal want to review something, you can say, it's right here, it's in the course and it has been covered. The students actually were told about this. It can, of course, serve as a platform or a tool to deliver the content in multiple ways, as we said, in writing or with videos, other means. And that can impact the student engagement and how well they do. When they are more engaged, research shows that they actually do better and they remember things better and they can score better in the exams down the road. It does impact the our own creativity as teachers, as instructors, right? So the way what we can use and how we put things together, then that sparks another idea in our head. And then at the very end, in the US, we have evaluations of the course, evaluations of the teacher and the school. So I'm not sure if those happen in India, but they still happen in the household. They still happen among the children, among the teachers and the parents. So the better job we do, the better perceptions and the evaluations are. In summary, I would like to say that the online teaching involves several aspects, from the technical aspects of how we lay it down in that Google Suite platform and how we deliver it. It creates an opportunity to actually be creative. It creates an opportunity for us to be mindful and thoughtful and think about not just having just some fun video that we found, let's say, but having that purpose always guide us so that everything we do is helping achieve that purpose. So all of that ultimately will play an important role in student engagement, learning, and outcomes. Are there any questions? I thank you for your attention, and I hope this was informative. If there's any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Or actually, I did not put my email address, but let me see the chat. Okay, I will stop sharing my screen.
Okay, on behalf of Dr. Tila and myself, we would like to thank you for a very patient hearing. There's a lot of information, but any questions can be directed to us. We would be very happy to answer any questions. They can come to us via email, through Father Telus or somebody, and we would be happy to. So on that note, thank you very much, and we would like to introduce our next speaker, who would be I'm sorry, was that a question?
No, I think.
Okay. So we would like to introduce our next speaker, who is Dr. Michael Patterson. Dr. Michael Patterson will speak on the importance of self-education by parents with school-going children. Dr. Patterson, are you there?
I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Very good.
Thank you.
Okay. So let me give you a little a brief on the profile of Dr. Patterson. Dr. Michael Patterson was born in New York City. Everybody knows New York City. And he was raised in Midtown Manhattan. Manhattan is where all the big buildings are. He holds a master's degree in management and a doctorate in education. Dr. Patterson is an experienced educator and leader with 30 plus years of management experience, with a passion for education to help others succeed in the workplace and beyond. He is also a university adjunct instructor teaching the principles of leadership and management to both undergraduate and graduate students. In his consultant work, Dr. Patterson draws from a diverse career that includes multiple senior level positions with large corporations, including the US government. Dr. Patterson was the congressional liaison for a Fortune 500 company and sat on the Education and Technology Board for a local chamber of commerce. He is the online learning expert for Goodwin College Medical Assisting Advisory Board and a peer reviewer for the Academy of Management. Dr. Patterson holds a black belt in Taekwondo and received the Outstanding Volunteer Award in 2000 for his ability of Special Olympics from the lieutenant or lieutenant, as we say in India, governor, the state of Connecticut. He has been deeply honored in being the recipient of the Outstanding Instructor of the Year by 2 universities. So a very diverse portfolio, very knowledgeable. And I turn it over now to Dr. Michael Patterson. Dr. Patterson, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Lionel. I really get, with all that being said about who I am and what I've done, and there's a lot more, it really comes down to my ability to communicate with people. Listening to the outstanding presentation that you and your fellow person from Rutgers University explained about online learning and explaining about teachers. I'm a little bit different in terms of, I come from a corporate background, spending 25 plus years within the corporate America in operations and in logistics, and going through all the different levels of management, and then transitioning into higher education, and also being a director of graduate programs and undergraduate programs. And this presentation is really, I try and keep everything simple. Everything that I do, I try and keep simple. And unfortunately, with technology, I had a little bit more in-depth prepared presentation with visuals and also some audios, but unfortunately, my computer crashed. And I did not back it up onto my iCloud. And as a result of that, I had to put something together at the last minute, which all students can actually relate to, because it's waiting, not backing something up from technology, then going ahead and saying to the teacher, hey, I had a problem. I wasn't able to download my information, or I lost my information. So it's something that is relative with technology, but it's important to always back up all the information. So lesson learned again by myself. So with that, I'm just going to cover some things. It's not a long presentation. I'm going to try and keep it as simple, but a lot of things that were said in the previous presentation, I'm also going to share that happens in the business world. So I actually come from an application to then learning more about theories and concepts, which has really enhanced my overall knowledge overall in my expertise of management and leadership. So when we talk about the importance of self-education by parents with school-going children, I want to ask a couple of questions out there. Some of these questions you might be able to answer, and some of you might not be able to answer. So do you know anything about Bloom's taxonomy in terms of parents? And I'm talking about parents here. And the more parents are engaged and more understand, and as we go through this presentation, you'll understand the importance of this. And also how it applies to the workplace. So do you know about Bloom's taxonomy in the hierarchical model? Actually, the previous presentation talked about test taking and assessments, a lot that have to do with comprehension and recalling information, but the need to also to get our students to be able to be at a higher level of learning, meaning to be able to analyze and create and have some critical thought. Are you aware of the curriculum being administered at your school's children, at your children's school? Understanding that curriculum, does that curriculum really, are there any issues with the curriculum? Is the curriculum old? Is it not up to date? being able to be involved with a curriculum is very, very important. I'm going to share a short story about myself with my younger son. Do you know about the flipped classroom? I know there's a lot of mention about it. I know that a lot of institutions have tried to flip classroom. Some institutions have redesigned classrooms to actually accommodate the flipped classroom. But do you know anything about it yourself? And is it something that you agree with? Is your voice being heard within your child's institution? Are you part of PTA meetings? Are you part of, do you attend the meetings? Now, which I think is one of the things, I know there's a lot of negative things going on about, I mean, unfortunately, we're losing lives and because of this pandemic, but there are some things that are coming from it that I think are really positive. And one of those things is that a lot of the meetings that you had to attend at institutions or in town halls are now being done virtual, which means that more and more people can now participate because maybe they weren't able to participate because they didn't have babysitting support, or the time that they were needed to be part of that meeting, they weren't able to really travel there, but now they can attend this meeting virtually. So the question is, are you attending those meetings? Are you having your voice being heard? Are you aware of your teacher's difficulties? Teachers have difficulties too. I'm going to share a little bit of feedback from teachers, but teachers have difficulties. And I think it's important for us to try as parents to try and find out what those difficulties are and trying to help support them overcome some of those difficulties. It's just not the administrator's responsibility. What is your institution's rating compared to other schools? I think that's important as well. And what is curriculum mapping? Well, there's curriculum mapping is done in K through 12, and it's also done in higher education. And even in higher education, when I mean higher education, I'm talking about colleges and universities, whether it be in the undergraduate or postgraduate. A lot of times faculty don't understand the purpose of curriculum mapping and scaffolding. So in K through 12, there is scaffolding as well. And you need to, as a parent, get involved with that. And I'll share a little bit about and more information about that moving forward. What are the desired outcomes from the institution? The previous presentation talked about assessment. So what is, depending upon your child's grade level, what is the outcome that the school is looking for? And what is the outcome that you're looking for as well? So how did you do? I'm not sure. Unfortunately, I could have gone ahead and asked for questions or how do you have responses on how you did. But I'm unlimited on time. So with that being said, I just want to share with you that I surveyed some parents in other school districts, and most of the parents could only answer 3 out of the 8 questions, not because of the fact that they're not knowledgeable, not that they can't articulate their messages well, not that they're not successful in business, but more importantly, it was because of the fact that they had lack of involvement in the school system. We're busy. We have busy lives. Absolutely. We've got our personal lives. We have our family. We have our children. And now with the pandemic, we have things going on all the time. But one of our main priorities are our children. And that's our future of our world. So teachers, when I also interviewed some teachers, I asked teachers, what were some of the problems? Why can't parents answer those questions? And from their perspective, it was really that parents have a lack of interest sometimes, or when they do get involved, the conversations all centered around the lack of quality instruction, that their child is not getting the best from the institution or best from them as a teacher. And that just creates negativism. And it doesn't set up an open forum for a good collaboration or robust discussion. So I want to share a true story with you about my second grader. or now he's a fourth grader, but this was a couple of years back or 2 years back. So one of the things that I had did was I had got a form early on in his beginning of the school year, and I was asked whether I wanted any extra help for him. Well, of course, you know, if you're going to offer extra help in reading and math, let's do it. Anyway, about 3 or 4 months into the school year, I was asked to come and meet with the principal, meet with his teacher, and meet with different administrators or educators. And they wanted to talk to me about that they thought that he had some type of disability. And I listened. And then I asked a question to his teacher and said, "Do you know anything about my son?" And they said, "Well, I know that he's active, he's a good athlete, he's a wonderful child." I said, "With some of the things that you're explaining to me, that he's not able to comprehend some of the material that you're offering to him, and he's being challenged with math and English. Are you aware that he's in martial arts? Are you aware that he is actually able to learn all the different forms that are required? And he's also learning, he can count 1 to 10 in Korean." And I started to explain a lot about my son. Well, they didn't know anything about my son. So how can you come up with an assessment about my son if you haven't really taken the time to learn about my son? As a result of that, to make a long story short, I also want to tell you that in grades in the United States, a lot of times they keep boys back 1 year because they feel as though the brain has not developed enough or maturity enough to stay up to par with that grade. In my case, my son was a young 8-year-old. Understand that him being a young 8-year-old, there are other kids in his class that are turning 9 years old in September and October. And there are some other kids turning 10 years old in the latter part of the school year. Meaning, my point here is that my son's comprehension ability was not there and should not be judged with someone who's 9 and 10 years old. As a result of that, the more I got involved with the curriculum, the more I got involved with who the teachers were, the principal. My son is now in 4th grade, and he is doing outstanding. And it all has to do with waiting for the light bulb to come on, waiting to understand that where my son was in terms of comprehension and his development of his brain wasn't where other students were. So they needed to try to provide instruction or gear the classroom or give me more information about how to help a younger child in 2nd grade versus someone who's a little bit more mature. Not sure whether or not you can relate, but it's important. And also, one of the things is to try, and I needed to find out, as being an educator myself, what was his learning style? What was one of the best ways to help him understand the content? I got involved with what the curriculum was, and the curriculum in our school district is Common Core. I even got involved in how long each teacher gets to actually provide a preview of the information being provided for the course. They got 20 minutes to provide a preview. They got 20 minutes to 30 minutes for sharing information and giving some feedback and identifying what child needs different help. And then they provided homework. And then after the homework, they're on to something else. What was a little bit too aggressive for my son at his level. And but at home, I started to really understand the curriculum. I had to go on and really understand what the teacher was trying to teach. And it took some time because what I learned when I was young was a lot different than what my son was learning. And I really needed to understand what he was going through. I wonder if you can relate at some of the things I talked about. So what do we need to do from my perspective? I believe that parents need to meet with the administrators in school, get involved, see what's going on. And as I mentioned before, I think it's very important to understand the curriculum and understand what's going on. Build a relationship with your children's teacher. My wife is a PTA co-president. Goes and we just this past right before Thanksgiving, we went and brought flowers to the teacher. We try and build a robust and open relationship with our teacher. Attend meetings. Make sure your voice is heard. You have an integral part of what goes on in that institution. Make your voice heard. Get involved with the design of the curriculum. Make notice of some of the issues that you might have with it. I think it's very important for institutions and for the administrators to understand what your concerns are. Make mention of it maybe at a district's meeting. Your word does matter. Ask how you can help. We lose a lot of good teachers. Because all they hear is negativity, negativity, negativity. And we as parents need to go ahead and help retain those good teachers. Reward those good teachers in terms of just a thank you. Having your child say thank you. Having your child go ahead and help motivate your teacher that thank you so much for what you're doing. It takes a village to educate a child. There's some great studies in the United States about how principals and teachers who really get engaged and understand about the students and understand about what students are going through, what parents are going through, that really go ahead and can increase not just scores, test scores, but more importantly, that the child starts to then go ahead and start to have fun in school. Here is just some things about statistics showing about what you can do as a parent to help your child. A lot of times we always want the child to read, but there's nothing wrong with reading out loud to your child. Help with their homework. That's where you have to know the curriculum. That's where you have to know what they're being taught and different ways of helping them with that homework. Be aware of educational technology. I'm sure the institution can help you where there's a lot of technology to help your child where they're trying to learn. For example, my son has a software technology online about how to type, and we do contests between I go ahead and compete with him on how fast I can type and how my quality of typing is. Typing is very important. We're all using computers now. So that, and it's also builds the memory to what you're doing cognitively to your fingers. And I think that's very important as well. Helping with test taking skills. My son was very good in terms of one-on-one, he did very well, but he wasn't the best test taker. And we're teaching him and helping him become a better test taker. Do you know what your learning style of your child is? Are they visual? There are 3 different learning styles out there, and go take a look at out there about learning styles and and it might not be that your child is having an issue. It's that, well, they might be having an issue, but they may be having an issue because the type of instruction or teaching doesn't really match or meet with their learning style. So find out what their learning styles are and maybe it can help. Also, it's not in here, but also have your child's vision checked. Sometimes children go down in grades because they haven't had their eyes checked, and sometimes it's hard for them to read. And also for hearing, sometimes a child will ask to sit up front where they are moved to the back, and it's not because they're not really wanting to learn. It's sometimes they have some hearing challenges. Understand your child's educational challenges. Talk to them. Find out what they're going through. Find out what they like, what they don't like. Make it fun, but try and understand about what your child is going through. They are having challenges, no matter what grade they're in, whether they like, what don't they like. So I think that's important as well. Also, talk about the skills needed for the future. What is going on today in today's world and what's needed in the future. Make it fun, and you can make a difference. But before I leave here, I want to just go over a couple of things. The previous conversation or the presentation was about using different games and things in terms of having children remember things.
Why?
Well, coming from
What is this?
corporate America, sometimes you have to have employees remember things. Well, there's a requirement in OSHA to remember certain terms. So there are 5 seeing habits that every person who was in logistics, who was driving a vehicle out delivering, had to remember. And these 5 things they had to remember was always make sure that you keep your eyes moving. Also go ahead and get the big picture. Keep your eyes moving. Leaving out. Make sure they see you. It was very hard for drivers and even their supervisors and safety personnel to remember that. So we came up with an acronym that I still remember this day, and it's been years back that I was an executive there. And what that acronym was: all good kids like milk. All good kids like milk. A, aim high in steering. G, good. Keep the big picture. Kids, keep your eyes moving. L, like, leaving out. M, milk, make sure they see you. So it does work. And concluding and leaving, I just want to say technical skills are important, but it's been my experience within the for-profit sector and within the nonprofit sector, within higher education, one of the most important skills that we can teach our kids is the ability to work with others. Build the communication skills, build your listening skills, build leadership skills, understand the difference between management and leadership, understand different cultures, and most importantly is to go ahead and be able to go ahead and work cohesively within a team and a group. And even students in higher education really frown and try and refrain against working in groups. The problem with that is really through their K through 12, if they were encouraged to work through groups and work through teams, when they would get to higher education or they get to a point into the workplace, they'll be able to work cohesively. It's been my experience that 90% of the time, I never had to remove somebody or end someone's career because of technical skills. They typically always succeeded in technical skills. The issue where they failed was really in their failure to be able to communicate with others. With that, I thank you, and thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of this. I'll take it back over and any questions that you might have.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, go ahead, Lenny.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Patterson. Are there any questions for Dr. Patterson? And if there are no questions at this time, Dr. Patterson has provided his email address, and you can always reach out to him through email. And if you don't remember that, then you can also reach me or Dr. Srikanth, and we can relay the question to Dr. Patterson, who will be gracious and respond and reply. Now, one thing that, first of all, I would like to thank Dr. Patterson for an excellent presentation. And it made us think that not only are we as teachers playing an important role, but teachers have a role in also teaching parents, and parents likewise also have to provide that feedback loop and in turn must also educate our teachers. So it is each one teach one is from what I could gather from Dr. Patterson's presentation. As parents, we have an important role of providing feedback to our teachers, and teachers likewise must closely interact. All in all, it's a win-win situation, a winning formula when that happens, as Dr. Patterson pointed out. And now take this opportunity to introduce the next speaker. So okay, so the next speaker will be Father, I won't say his full name, but I like the abbreviated name of Father Tellus. Father Tellus is going to be speaking on coping with the new normal in education. I think Dr. Shrikant provided you with his profile, so I will not go through his entire profile, but just to say that Dr. Tellus is the new Deputy Secretary of the Western Region Bishops' Council, and he took charge of that in mid-August of 2019. So Dr. Shrikant has given you his entire profile, so I will not spend time on that. But Dr. Tellus, welcome to this important conference on teachers inspiring students, and look forward to your presentation, Father. So Dr. Tellus, Father Tellus, are you there? Hello? Shrikant, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so we are waiting for Father Tellus. Yes.
Yes, come. Father Tatus, no?
Father Tellus. Father Tellus.
Oh, yeah. Where is he?
Okay. Let me see. Let me send him a message on WhatsApp. Yeah, if somebody in the audience who has Father Tellus's contact information can send him. So we've sent a message to Father Tellus. Hopefully we will get him soon. So I would just like to say that 3 days. As you can see, there are different perspectives coming from India, rather from the United States, and you might find some common threads based on your experience.
Yeah, yes, come. Father
So
Teles has
we
come.
have
Father Teles
yes,
has
Father
come.
Teles is yes, good. So Father Teles, welcome to the presentation. I have provided a little brief bio on you and introduced you, so you can take over, and I'll hand you the microphone now. Can you unmute Father Teles?
Father Teles.
He cannot hear, it seems. You need to unmute him.
One second.
Hello.
Yeah, yes, come.
Yes,
Okay.
you were not muting me.
Now it's okay. Right?
Yeah, now it is okay
Now-
because I was unmute all this time.
No. There was the
By
glitch there. No
you.
problem. No problem, sir. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Can you see?
Yeah.
Okay. So my topic will be with regard to coping with the education, with the new normal in education.
do a slideshow, Father Teles.
Can you see me properly?
Yes, do a
Okay.
mute. Sorry, do a yes.
Yes. So I would like to begin by saying that I am a foot soldier, and I like to know the ground realities that our teachers, our school administrators, our students, our parents are facing and were facing during this long period of pandemic, which is not yet over. And we've all caught by surprise by this pandemic, which was unprecedented. And it caused a lot of panic and helplessness and uncertainty among us. And we in the school, we found that we need to progress. We need to reach out to the students. We need to somehow get hold of them and teach them. We did not want to lose our students and they be left alone and shunted out because they are not getting education. And that's why we managed to somehow get in touch with the Western region, and Archbishop Elias and his team of Francis and Maria, they helped us along in hand-holding and reaching out to the students. And of course, we did a great job after that. In America and Europe, this online teaching was there for many years. So it was for them easy to, adapt faster after the outbreak of the corona pandemic. Many of our high-end schools also were there in this online teaching, and they were able to do that too. But, long hours on the screen for the students, the pitfalls were there, and they did not realize that. And so there were a lot of problems that the students faced. And that's why Western Region Catholic Foundation for Education, which is headed by His Grace Elias Gonsalves, Archbishop of NACO, and he helped us out in reaching out to all our schools. And we had 526 schools that had enrolled for this digital program. And in Gujarat, we had 112 schools that registered in this digital program. So I will be talking about this coping with the new normal in education. And for that, my objective is to study the impact of COVID-19 on education. And I've used the survey method. And the sample that I had chosen was the Catholic schools in the 4 dioceses of Gujarat state, the western state of India. And then I had 91 schools who responded very fast. I had given them a window period of 14 hours. And I got 91 responses out of 180 schools that we have registered under this body. And I had used the tool questionnaire consisting 14 questions, which was sent on Google Form. And so we got started with this. I wanted to know what exactly was happening on the ground during this pandemic. And then the first question that I addressed is school name, address, and principal's name. I have bifurcated according to the diocese. Ahmedabad diocese 17, we had schools that responded. Baroda diocese 30 schools responded. Rajkot 33 schools responded. And then Gandhinagar, that is my archdiocese, we had 11 schools. And so total of 91 schools that responded. Mind you, many of the schools are in the rural, in semi-urban and urban areas, and they were able to respond fast. While those who were in the rural section areas, they found it difficult to respond to my Google form. And so I got at least 91, that is half of the schools that are registered in our board. And that's enough for me, because that will give me some idea, and this will give us some idea about where we are. The second question was with regard to whether school comes under urban, semi-urban, or rural areas. And then we see that in urban areas from this 91 schools, 44.4% were from urban areas, from semi-urban 20%, and 35.6% were from rural areas. What are the platform that was used for online teaching? And we had 52.7% using Google Meet and Google Classroom. And thanks to the Western region, because of that, many of our schools got into Google Meet and registered themselves. And then we had 17.6% through Zoom, and 8.8% we had Microsoft Teams, which is used by the government of India, and 20.9% they had other platforms were used. Which mode of teaching do you use? When I asked that question, online teaching 50.5%, and offline 7.7%, that is mainly in the villages, and both 41.8%. So this was with regard to the mode of teaching that was used by our schools. The fifth question was with regard to the social media modes, teaching modes that the schools used. And 47.3% they were using WhatsApp, 25.3% used YouTube videos, and video created was 17.6%, and the other things that they used. With regard to home learning activities, what type of home learning activities they gave to our students? They gave worksheets, MCQs, fill in the blanks, short answer questions, quiz, art and craft activities, project work, learning by doing activities, yoga, long answer questions, government home learning materials, links for references and in-depth study, assignments from textbooks, essay writing, homework, assembly preparation. These were the list of home learning activities that our teachers gave to the students. And what is the percentage of students attending the online and offline classes? That is what we want you to know. And we can see from the graph that 18.7% schools were able to retain 100% students in online and offline learning, while 51.6% of our schools managed only 75, and 19.8 managed 50% retention of students, and 9.9 we had 25 and below. Were the parents supportive of your teaching activities? The responses suggest that 62.6% said yes, and partially 35.2%, and the no's were very less. So most of the parents really participated and helped in supporting the teaching activities. With regard to salaries, were you able to pay the salaries of your staff all these many months? We had long months, and we had to pay the teachers the salaries. So what was our response? How were we able to deal with that? We managed to pay for first 2 months, but the pandemic continued and it was endless. And so the survey will tell us what exactly is the ground reality. So 39.6% of our schools were able to pay 100% salaries to their teachers, to their staff. 19.8% were able to pay 75% salaries, and 35.2% were able to pay 50% of salaries. And the remaining part, the 25% and less, many of the schools were not able to pay sufficient salaries. Did you manage, your management keep buffer capital amount for such emergencies? And we see that greater part of our management were not able to have a buffer capital amount, and 54.99% did not have any such buffer capital, while 35.2% did have. And the rest, some of the schools, the province funded the money or advanced the money or loaned the money. And the other graph suggests that some of the schools were grant in aid, so they did not have such problem. What was the percentage of parents who paid the fees of their wards? And this is very interesting. We had 100%, hardly any. Nobody paid full fees. And then 37.4% parents were able to pay only 50%, while 18.7% were able to pay only 75%, and 25% were able to pay really 27.5%. So very, very less collection of fees can be seen from this graph. Our schools were not able to get the fees desired from the parents. Now, what are the positive impact of COVID-19 on education? From the teacher's point of view, I would like to see this. First, interaction with students became very smooth and convenient. And video conference to various platforms like Google Meet, Zoom, etc. helped in the self-teaching learning process. And it was very creative and interesting. The teaching aids such as open board, Jamboard, videos made the topic quite, very nice for the students. There was no time constraint for a meeting and sessions, and there was enough opportunity, to cover the maximum amount of topics for all the subjects. And then techno-shy teachers were forced to learn and become techno-savvy. That is one of the big advantages that we had. Many of the teachers were earlier not able to use technology in the classroom, even if it was provided for. But now with this pandemic, they were able to do that. Evaluation and exporting marks became convenient, and screen sharing features made the teaching learning process creative and interesting. Learned more about new technologies, various methods of teaching, and that helped them to get in touch with global views via online programs. A lot of expenses were and efforts. They were able to get a lot of knowledge, and then greater collaborative work among themselves. And here what we have seen is the younger teachers were able to help out the senior teachers in their online teaching experience. And that was a great thing that we could see. And there were many blending materials that were there for teaching and learning. And then they became more organized and confident in the new way of teaching. So teachers benefited a lot during this pandemic. From the students' point of view, the students could get well-organized lessons and classrooms according to their subjects. Announcement posted by the teachers kept them updated about the class events, about the tests or assignments, whatever the teacher was posting. Then students learn better because of visual aids. And that is always the case. When we have visual aids, the students learn better. Slow learners could learn at their own pace and spend time in revision. So that's the advantage of online teaching. They can learn at their own pace. And also it helped the students to be disciplined, independent, resourceful, and instilled in them as self-learning abilities. And then students could easily clarify their doubts by asking questions through typed messages. And then the main important part is that no fear of exam and punishment. So this was great news for them. What are the positive for the parents? Interaction became very easy among the parents, students, and teachers. Parents were able to easily attend the meetings, and they could contact the teachers very easily. Also, they were able to participate, involve, and appreciate and enjoy all the school activities. The parents have partnered with the teachers in the education of their wards. That's what Mr. Patterson was trying to say. And that's what is happening right now. The YouTube and recording features proved a boon, especially for working parents, because they could relate to their pre-primary children or primary section children. They could relate and use that recorded versions when they come back from work. The entire school could be included during the live streaming of the assemblies and morning prayers and all, and the parents could witness all these events sitting at home. Now the negative part of it, how has COVID-19 impacted education negatively? From the school management related issues, first one is lack of income due to non-payment of fees by parents have put tremendous pressure on the school managements in paying the salaries of the staff. So this was very, very something that the management was not able to figure out and do or help out. Apart from not being able to raise the fees, the government forced the management to further reduce the fees by 25%. So they still had to make a fee cut of 25%. No fiscal stimulus was offered by the government at this critical period. And then parents played hide and seek with the management. They wanted the teaching, but they were not paying the fees. And all planned projects and development had to be put on hold. So this was these are the woes of the management. With regard to the teachers, now the teachers during the pandemic had to put in 3 times the effort of the preparation in online and offline classes and preparing teachers, teaching aid, and they had to bear the brunt of reduced salaries. Imagine, tough time for the teachers. Many teachers felt stressed out because due to school and home management. So they had to manage both school and home. Some of the teachers had undergone depression as they initially found it difficult to use technology and to be exposed to camera and to the family members of the students. Earlier, they were all secured in the 4 walls of the classroom. Now it was different. Also, the paradigm shift in the teaching method found them wanting and unprepared. So they were not prepared for this move. And they found it difficult to have personal contact with the student and concentrate on the weak students. Also, class management, discipline, and students' pranks were serious issues. The students played a lot of pranks on the teachers. So that is something that we need to laugh about now. The teachers of rural schools found it extremely difficult to reach out to all their students. Thereby, they were not able to, enhance the teaching learning activities of their students in the rural areas. And last but not the least, no life in teaching without the physical presence of students in the physical classroom. It is a joy to have students bubbling with enthusiasm in the classroom. We can read their faces. We can know what they are doing. But in the virtual classroom, it is difficult to do so. Students-related issues, yes. By and large, the students' overall learning abilities got stunted and the knowledge was reduced. Lack of devices, data, and net connectivity, even in cities, were serious issues for our learners. And then long hours in front of the screen, boredom, lack of interest of study, no proper bonding, poor living condition, doubts could not be cleared, unclear concepts, all this made learning real drudgery. Fun and frolic with classmates during physical school was totally missed out on. And this is what the students loved, to be with their classmates, friends. And they had this social behavior of the child, it had reflected on them. They gave a lot of trouble to their parents at home. Students in rural areas and poor households were most affected because of non-availability of online teaching. Also limited access to offline teaching materials, because teachers used to go once in a week or so to their villages and to hand over things to them. So that it was also difficult, and also offline to send materials to them was difficult for them to download. All these problems were real problems for the rural students. Also behavioral problems, motivational issues, and health problems increased manifold. Due to financial crisis, the family and migration, quite a few students dropped out. So the family migrated from one state, one region to another region. And so they missed out on education. Also financial crisis, so they dropped out from school. With regard to parents, job loss or reduced salaries, EMI payments skyrocketing, then also putting food on the table. These were the problems, the strains that the parents had to undergo. And they had no money left to pay the fees of their children or buy devices. Parents with little education were unable to help their children during online learning. So that was the problem with the parents who were not educated. They feared also the misuse of mobile by their wards while they were at work. And we know what children can do with the mobiles, with the latest technology. Clash of timings for online learning in families with 2 or more children became difficult. Then small houses and no extra room for individualized learning and privacy became an embarrassment to the parents. So these are the issues faced by the parents. And when I ask this last question, do you prefer virtual or physical classroom teaching in the future? And the answer is obvious. Most of them preferred physical, 49.5, and those others, 50.5, said we want both virtual and physical. So this has to be the norm for the future now. What are the implications? We will have to use in our teaching now blended approach, meaning we have to use a physical classroom. It might be staggered way of conducting the class. And also we'll have to use online, offline, and home learning activities we have to incorporate. Also the PTA, Parents Teachers Association, should cash on the positives of the virtual meeting that they had. It was a great success. And parents and teachers could collaborate, understand, and the needs of their students, of their child. School managements will have to secure sizable fund to offset future similar disruption. So for the school management, they have to keep funds, enough funds, so that in case there are future disruptions, such pandemics, we'll be able to manage. And also the screen time for the students should be regulated. We need to regulate the screen time. Overdose is not good. Overdose of online teaching is going to have an ill effect on them. Then students in the rural areas were the most affected during the pandemic. The government will have to work out ways to make net connectivity possible, even in the rural remote areas, because learning never stops. So these students also should get the benefits of online teaching, and the government will have to do that. Philanthropists and NGOs and school managements, they should create a device bank so that the underprivileged students get access to laptop, mobiles for online learning. They should not be deprived because they don't have the money. So let us come forward and create this device bank wherein we can lend them these things to the devices to the students, and they can participate in online learning, be at par with other students. Conclusion, this COVID-19 has been a real eye-opener for all of us educators, and we need to be better prepared for the future. In future calamities, we have to be better prepared. Also, strategies need to be firmly put in place to tackle such eventualities. And children are the most affected. Children and people are most affected during this. Poor people are very much affected during this time, and we need to take special care for them. And then planning based on the implications derived with the implication which I just read earlier. We need to go along that and plug the holes. And then it is heartening to see the world community coming together to fight the battle. And we will succeed finally, definitely. And last but not the least, let's ensure that learning never stops for all our students. I want to acknowledge my co-companions for their help in presenting this topic. Yes, thank you for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Father Tellus. First of all, if there are any questions, we look forward to them right now. Any questions in the audience for Father Tellus? And
Thank you.
okay, thank you. And if there are no questions, then you can always send your questions to the organizers, that is me and Dr. Shrikant. So a couple of things I would like to say before I hand over the microphone to Dr. Shrikant. First of all, I would like to thank, could you please keep the, okay, so I thank His Grace Archbishop Elias
Lionel, unmute.
Okay, okay, sorry about that. Okay, so first of all, I would like to thank, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
A few thoughts before I hand over the microphone to Dr. Shrikant. First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Tellus for a very enlightening session. And the last point that he made was that the whole world is coming together, and it couldn't be more aptly said. So a couple of things. First of all, I would like to thank His Grace Archbishop Elias, who's been a true pioneer of digital education and all forms of education. We have seen that in the numerous engagements with His Grace Archbishop Elias. I would like to then especially thank the Rotary Club of Manipal for their significant support. I would like to thank Mr. Amit Arvind for his incredible help and support.
And Prashant
Dr.
Hegde also.
Shrikant is,
Prashant Hegde, Mr. Prashant Hegde.
yes, Mr. Prashant Hegde as well. And Dr. Shrikant Prabhu is always the rock of Gibraltar, been there to support all educational ventures, not only this one, but every other one. And he's an incredible force of nature. So Dr. Shrikant, thank you once again. And furthermore, you can see that this is a collaboration between the United States and Indian schools. I would like to inform you today is a very auspicious day in the United States. It is called Thanksgiving. So what is Thanksgiving? Briefly, it was when the first people arrived from Europe, the pilgrims on the ship called the Mayflower. They thanked God for all the gifts God has given them, and that day ever since is on every third Thursday of the fourth Thursday in the month of November is called Thanksgiving Day. So you can read up on Thanksgiving Day. So today is a holiday for the entire country. Coming back to the last point that I would like to make is that this is going to be a constant endeavor to bridge this geographic divide between the United States and India, and we will continually offer our help and services to everybody. So on that note, I would say adieu for now, but we'll rejoin again tomorrow, and I would turn the microphone over to Dr. Shrikant to express his closing views and thoughts for today.
Well, hearty good evening. Thank you all of you for registering for this conference, which is happening immediately after an international symposium for 3 days from 23rd November, 24th November, 25th November. Today we started the international conference, and I hope that tomorrow everybody is going to register by 5:15 p.m. Lionel, by 5:15 p.m. Lionel, tomorrow
Yes.
by 5:15 p.m. Please be
Correct.
there. Please be there in a bigger number. Please call more number of
Yes.
people. We want at least 150. Tomorrow, a lot of interesting sessions are there. Once again, I thank you all, and we will meet tomorrow at 5:15 p.m. 5:15 p.m. Is it all right to all of you? Is it all right to all of you? Can I have a big yes? Right.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. 5:15. Right, Lionel? Right, Tommy? All my speakers.
Yes, 5:15. 5:15.
All my speakers. Without you
Yes.
all, it would not have been possible. Thank you. Still more. Yes. Yes. Right. Good night. Good night. Bye, Lionel.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.